Welcome to Art and Soul. My name is Mike Severin. I'm glad you're joining me again today. I hope you can pull out some paints and brushes and paint along with me. We started this painting last week and we're probably, I don't think we're going to quite get it finished up with today, so we'll probably go on into next week to finish it up. But let me just kind of briefly give you a preview of what we've done so far. We got working on a 16 by 20 stretch canvas here, basically blocked in our sky and started forming the ocean here with the rocks here in the foreground and kind of at least an outline of the lighthouse that we're going to be painting. A beautiful, beautiful scene. Ocean's quite calm, and so it's not a bunch of big huge waves farther out here, but as it gets closer, as you know, to the rocks, it will start becoming a little more turbulent. So what we're going to do today is we're going to start out first of all with our lighthouse and just kind of develop it a little bit more. Like I said last week, we just kind of blocked it in, and so we need to take and start developing a little bit more today. So what we're doing is, I'll go through the colors really quickly, what I'm going to be working with. We've got a cad yellow, medium, burnt sienna, raw sienna, a cad orange. This is a permanent green, and then this is what they call lake green, which is basically starts the hues of towards a phthalo green. We have phthalo blue, and of course our titanium white. And the brush I'm going to start with is just as you can see here, it's just an angled brush. I really like working with the angled brushes, especially if you're doing edges of things. And so that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to start up here at the top and kind of work our way down the painting. So let's kind of get some colors mixed up here. I'm going to start with just some of the red here. Now, last week we did this red of the top with a crimson, and that's the darker side of it. So the light source is coming from our right here, so this left side of the lighthouse is going to be lighted up. So we're going to take and start adding in now some highlights and kind of cleaning up the edges of this of the cap on this lighthouse. And with that cad orange, and I'm just what they call scumbling or dry brushing that on there, and we're just trying to get just where the highlight, where the sun would be hitting that on the edge, across like that. And maybe we'll take and do just a little bit on the little lighthouse keeper's roof here. If you notice, I'm just doing really light, just dry brushing, not trying to cover up all of that crimson, because it's that's an important part of giving it the depth there. So we've done that, and I'm going to add just a hair bit of, just go straight into the titanium white. We'll just kind of just do a few little right on the edge where the highlight, or where the sun is going to be the strongest, hitting on the edge of that. Coming down there to a point. We'll do the same thing, maybe towards, just right out here towards the edge of this roof line, and just kind of feather it back a little bit. And just a few little hot spots of light that might be hitting across it. Yeah, that looks good there. So now let's start developing a little bit of this where the actual glass is at, where the light is at. And so I'm not cleaning my brush. I'm just going to go straight into that cad yellow light, and I'm going to bring over some white into that, and I want to keep that more on the yellow side, at least at this point. And we're just going to kind of make these lines a little, the edges here, a little more defined of where that glass comes down at. And we'll do that on both sides. There we go. And then we'll come in next week and we'll hit that with more of the light, or with the white, where it would be maybe illuminating a little better there. So we've got that. And on the top of all lighthouses, there's a little walkway that goes around the top there, for the lighthouse keeper to do his check and do his thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go right into the script brush. I'm going to take some paint thinner, and I'm going to mix up kind of my own little rendition of a dark color. It doesn't have to be black exactly, but I'm pulling in the burnt sienna into that mixture. Maybe we'll throw in a little orange in there. We just want a nice dark color, but we can, a little green even in there. Yeah, that's good. And I'll thin it out just a little bit so it'll be easier to maneuver on the canvas. And a lot of people, again, are worried about these script brushes, and they're really quite easy once you get the hang of them. So we've got the paint that's kind of an ink consistency, so it's really fluid, not too runny, but it's got some a little bit of more of an ink consistency. So I want to take and cap this off, and I want to try to make this halfway as square across there as I can do it. That looks good. And I'll reload, and I want to take and connect that little roof straight down. There we go. And there's several of those little things that come down as supports. This lighthouse that I'm painting is no particular lighthouse. It's just one that kind of in my head, just kind of like, I just decided to paint. But if there's one that you particularly like, get a picture of it and paint it. That's the fun of this, is you can paint whatever you want to paint. Make it your own. It's funny, as I was coming in today, I heard somebody yelling Dumbo as I had the windows open because it was quite warm, and it kind of I started thinking about the story of Dumbo, and quite a funny little story, a great lesson that we can learn off of it, and I'll talk about that here in a minute. But what we're going to do now is, now that we've got kind of the top developed a little more, I want to take and start making a little more of texture now into the lighthouse itself, into the structure. And I'm going to do that with a palette knife, and I'm going to go straight into that titanium white, and this little mixture of goo color I mixed up there, we're going to throw it in there as well. And that's a little too green for my like, so I'm going to take and bring in a little more of the blue. Yeah, I like that a little better. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take the palette knife, and I'm just going to take and I'm just going to touch the edge, and I'm going to pull it in. Touch and pull it in. And what that does is it actually just kind of gives it a nice little texture. You know, maybe this thing was built with some brick and mortar, or maybe it had some stones that they helped use to build a structure with. But by using the palette knife, it just comes off. You have a nice thick texture that's on the canvas. And then next week, what we'll do is we'll take and come back and hit all of the real highlights that are on that. And I want to darken this edge up now with a little more of the blue. And you can paint your lighthouse any color you want to. It's entirely up to you. But again, we're working here on the shadowed side of that lighthouse. And again, I'm using the palette knife, and I just added in more of the phthalo blue. And I'll come across here, and forgive me if my hand gets in the way. Hopefully you can see that. And that just gives it a little more 3-dimension. And it'll even more so be as we put in the highlights next week. And I want to take and do the same thing here with the little lighthouse shack. Just kind of gently just graze that down. There we go. All right, we kind of got that kind of developed now pretty good, and I'm going to take and start going in on the rocks and kind of defining those a little bit better. A lot of people criticize because I don't mix the colors a lot of times on the palette. I do them on the canvas themselves, and the reason why I like doing that is because you have such a variation of colors that show up on the canvas when you paint it, and the colors are mixing there. And that actually works to your advantage when you're doing rocks, because it in some ways almost forms the rocks that you're going to be painting. So I'm going to grab now my, I don't know, it's a 1-inch bristle brush here, and I'm going to grab that burnt sienna, and there's a little bit of the blue that's got in there as well. And I'm just going to take now, and I'm just going to kind of start defining out some of these rock structures, where they're at. I don't know, that still may be too dark where you can see it on the camera. I hope that you can see that. A big old rock that jets out here. Anyway, as I continue putting these rocks in, I'll get back to my little Dumbo story. Like I said, I was driving along and windows were open, and I heard somebody yell Dumbo, and I started thinking about the story, and everybody has heard, I'm sure, the story of the little elephant that was born with this anomaly of these giant ears, and everyone thought it was kind of cool to begin with, but then it turned out that they started making fun of him because of it, and he had all sorts of problems because of those big ears. And somebody said, you should fly. Elephants don't fly. This raven gave Dumbo a feather. And when Dumbo had the feather, he could fly. Everybody knows the feather wasn't what made him fly. It was because of the ears. But in his mind, what was giving him the ability to fly was that feather in his hand. And a lot of us, myself included, I've felt outcast many times in my life. I grew up in school. I was just a real nerdy looking guy, and I was teased all the time and thrown into lockers and garbage cans, etc. And I know that feeling of being kind of an outcast and not really fitting in sometimes in society. But I think it's kind of an important story to learn that, it doesn't matter what the rest of the world thinks. Take that, what might be considered a disability to somebody else, or a different way of thinking than somebody else, and use that to your advantage. Maybe you've got big old giant ears like Dumbo did. Well, that's okay. You know, use them to your advantage. It helped Dumbo, he could fly where the other elephants couldn't. So embrace what you've got and, you know, utilize that, because, you know, God's made you the way you are, and you know, don't let the world and society destroy that opportunity that you've got to utilize the blessing. And rather than looking at it as a curse, look at it as a blessing. So as you can see, as I was talking there, I basically kind of just defined out some of our rock formation. Not really difficult. I just kind of, where there was lights or darks from when I put down that base color, I just went through and accented it with the burnt sienna, and then with a little bit of the white and the blue. And what I want to do now is I want to take and incorporate in maybe some greens, because, you know, you've always got the different stuff that grows in the ocean that attaches itself onto rocks, and for it, if you look at, when you go and start looking at the rocks, you'll see a multitude of colors. So what I'm doing is I'm taking this green, and I've added in some burnt sienna. It almost takes on a kind of an army green almost to, I know that's not a great technical term, but I think you probably get the idea of what color I'm referring to. And again, I'm going to take and just kind of scrumble this in a few different places. And I'm going to take the brush and you know, a lot of times people take and they think they've got to be using the brush like this. You know, maybe you're working it up this way or down this way, however you need to do to get the effect you want. And for me, because I've got the brush loaded up here, and I'm not wanting to be real specific here with where the color is. I just want to take and lay it over on its side and just kind of just scrub it in here and there and here, and wherever the canvas pulls off a glob of paint, that's what we're wanting. Yeah, there's some, I have kind of an idea of what I'm wanting to do, but you know, sometimes the brush has a different idea. Yeah, so that, you know, you can see, I mean, I'm not doing anything special. I'm just taking and rubbing the canvas with this, and it's pulling off that paint. And that looks really, really nice. It looks very realistic. Now what I want to do is we're going to take and hit just a little more of some highlights to distinguish out these rock formation, and then we'll take and we'll start developing out some of those waves a little better. So I'm going to clean that brush off just a little bit and grab out just a little more white paint. I want to encourage you too, as I'm getting ready here, if you have any questions about anything, about what I use for product or maybe a technique, feel free to email me. There's at the end of the show is information, and that can way you can get a hold of me. It has my email address and my Facebook account on there as well. So please, I'd love to hear from you, even if you just your opinion about the show, if you like it or don't like it, what you'd like to see me paint, anything like that. I'd love to hear from you. So as you watch there, I just grabbed some burnt sienna, some white. Actually, I'm going to throw in just a little bit of that yellow ochre in there as well. Maybe just a hair bit more of the white. And then we're going to take and we're just going to kind of go through and define out, again, more of these rock formations. It still needs a little lighter, so I'm going to grab a little more of the white, throw it in there. And this isn't going to be our final highlight color. We'll come back in with some more next week. Yeah, that's better. So I'm just kind of just hitting where the tops of these edges of these rocks where the sun would be maybe hitting them, rounding them off. You can probably even hear the brush on, it's pretty, I'm scrubbing it in basically into the fibers of the canvas. Not very liquid, it's very dry, what they call dry brushing. And maybe there's a rock that comes down. Remember, we don't want to kill all of the dark spaces. The dark spaces are what makes the rocks distinguishable from one to the next one. Yeah, I'm liking that. And you don't have to do every little rock, or we're just trying to, just give the idea here of, so that when people look at it, they go, oh, that's a cool rock formation there. And we'll go right on across here, pick up a little more paint. And I'm not really too worried about these rocks down here because the waves are going to be crashing up over the top of them, and so we're not going to really see a whole lot of the edge of those rocks there. I'm liking that. That looks pretty good. Okay, so what I want to do now is I want to take, and I'm just throwing in a little spot there I didn't really care for. So now what we're going to do is I want to take and throw in, start developing these waves and show you how to do that. So I'm going to quickly clean out that brush. And we're going to go into our phthalo blue and the white. We have the real darks, as you can see in here, and we want to take now and just start bringing out more of the intermediate colors of that water. So if you remember last week from the show, I showed you how to do this, and they're basically just these kind of comma marks, if you want to call them that, and they basically kind of distinguish out the different waves. So we're going to take and just use that. So where we've got a dark, we want to just come back in and pull in some white or some lighter intermediate colors on it. Need a little more white in that just to make it stand out a little better. And a nice crest right there of a wave. Maybe one right there. I love the colors of the ocean. It's just so beautiful. A little more white. I want to get it just a little whiter yet. You can always take and change it. If it's too light or too dark, you're the artist. You can take and change it. There's nothing that can't be fixed and changed. Yeah, that's looking good there. While I'm still got that dirty brush, I'm going to go into that lake green, they call it. Basically, it's a phthalo green. Beautiful color. I love seeing that when I go to the beach with the sun hitting it. And I want it a little lighter even than that. Yeah, that's better. I can already tell. You can be a little more selective now of where you put these, because again, we're just trying to make that wave in the ocean, the flow of the water, where it really pops. Next week we'll come back in with some more highlights and just at the tops of those waves. Looks really starting to get there. like how the wave is breaking over there. That looks really, really cool. You'll see things as you start painting that just kind of, it kind of wows you. It's almost magical to watch sometimes. It looks like that's about all we're going to have time for today. But we got a good base. We got that lighthouse developed out a little more. Our rocks, they're formed now, and our ocean starting to develop, the waves. And next week we'll be able to get this guy finished up. And as always, I want to leave you with a couple of thoughts. That story with Dumbo kind of really touched with me today as I was coming in. And so I'm going to kind of show something I wasn't really expecting to do. In my pocket, my left pocket, it's got to be my left one, and in my right pocket, I carry a love rock in this one and a special quarter in the other one. This love rock I've carried with me every single day. Every pair of pants, shorts, lays next to me by my pillow every night. It reminds me of important people in my life. It reminds me of the things that I'm trying to do and accomplish in life. They bring smiles to my face. When I'm down, I can look at them. It makes me feel good. It gives me direction and drive in life. The quarter, I won't go into all of that, why I carry it. I've carried it for a number of years, the same quarter, but there's significance to it. And you go, why would you carry a rock around in your pocket with you all the time? Just because it's my own feather, like Dumbo, only I know that this is not a magic rock, doesn't change who I am, but what it does is it's a daily reminder. I can touch down in my pants, put my hand in my pocket, I feel it, it's there with me all the time as a constant reminder of what I'm trying to accomplish in life. And maybe you need to find your own little trinket that you can carry with you, or maybe it's a post-it note you put on the mirror every morning that you see. Whatever it is in your life, do little things like that just to make your mind, bring them back and focus on what you're trying to do. I think that if you will do those things, it's going to help you get through your day. It's going to put a smile on your face. And every single time I look at that rock, feel it in my hand, feel the smoothness, it reminds me of all the things that I want to do in life, all the things that are precious and dear to me. Find something in your life maybe that you need to carry with you, to inspire you, to make you motivated to go forward. Keep a smile on your face, happy and joyful in your heart. And if you do that, I think it might help you out. It's sure helped me. Thank you for joining me today. Have a great week, and I look forward to seeing you next week, and we'll finish up this painting. Thank you for joining me. Love you, CJ.